Good evening and welcome to ARC News TV. Tonight, one of the world's most critical maritime choke points appears to be entering a new and dangerous phase of instability. Multiple merchant vessels have been struck by projectiles in the Strait of Hormuz, according to reporting by Reuters, damaging ships and forcing evacuations in waters that carry roughly 20% of the world's oil supply. According to the same reporting, tanker operators are now increasingly avoiding the area as the attacks add to a growing pattern of maritime incidents linked to the escalating confrontation involving Iran, the United States, and Israel. If these disruptions continue, the consequences could ripple far beyond the Persian Gulf, affecting global energy markets and strategic stability across multiple regions. Before we break this down, if you follow global security and strategic conflicts, consider subscribing to ARC News TV. We analyze the developments shaping the balance of power around the world. According to reporting by Reuters on March 11, a cargo ship was struck by what officials described as a projectile while transiting the Strait of Hormuz. The crew was evacuated after the vessel sustained damage. Separate reporting cited by Reuters and other outlets indicates that at least 3 merchant ships were hit during the latest series of incidents in the waterway. These attacks appear to be part of a broader escalation unfolding in the region, following recent military strikes involving the United States and Israel against Iranian targets. The Strait of Hormuz sits between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula and connects the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman and the Arabian Sea. It is widely considered one of the most strategically important shipping corridors in the world. According to widely cited energy data referenced in reporting on the crisis, roughly 20% of global oil flows move through this narrow channel. Any sustained disruption, therefore, carries immediate implications for global energy prices, shipping insurance markets, and the stability of international supply chains. Reports cited by Reuters indicate that sea drones or projectile-based attacks may have been involved in some of the incidents targeting tankers and cargo ships. However, attribution remains complex. Some officials have pointed toward Iranian Revolutionary Guard naval units as possible actors, though direct confirmation remains limited and several details of the incidents are still under investigation. What is clear, based on multiple reports, is that the number of maritime attacks has increased sharply in the current escalation cycle. According to reporting cited by Reuters and The Guardian, there have been at least 14 incidents targeting shipping in this latest period of heightened tension. Each event increases the risk of miscalculation between military forces operating in one of the most heavily monitored maritime environments on the planet. To understand how the current situation unfolded, it is important to examine the timeline. According to Reuters reporting, the latest attacks occurred amid a broader escalation that followed military strikes against Iranian targets by the United States and Israel. Those strikes, which targeted Iranian-linked infrastructure and military capabilities, were part of an expanding confrontation connected to regional conflicts and maritime security threats. Following those developments, tanker operators and shipping companies began issuing warnings about the risks associated with transiting the Strait of Hormuz. Insurance rates for vessels entering the region reportedly increased as maritime security alerts intensified. Then, according to Reuters reporting from March 11, a cargo ship was struck by a projectile in the strait. The vessel sustained damage significant enough to require crew evacuation. Soon afterward, additional reports indicated that multiple vessels had been targeted in similar incidents within the same maritime corridor. At the same time, reports began circulating that tanker operators were actively avoiding the strait where possible, diverting routes or delaying shipments. That shift alone can create ripple effects throughout global energy logistics. Meanwhile, the maritime security picture became even more complex when separate reports indicated that sea drones had been used to target oil tankers in the region. According to Reuters, these remotely operated systems have increasingly appeared in maritime confrontations in recent years due to their relatively low cost and high operational flexibility. The use of such systems also complicates attribution. Unlike traditional naval attacks conducted by identifiable warships or aircraft, sea drones can be launched from concealed positions and may be difficult to trace conclusively to specific operators. While the maritime situation was deteriorating in the Persian Gulf, another development was unfolding further north. According to reporting from Reuters and Al Jazeera, Turkish authorities stated that NATO air defense systems intercepted a suspected Iranian ballistic missile approaching Turkish airspace earlier this week. Officials describe this as the second such interception reported during the current period of tension. According to Turkish officials cited in Reuters reporting, the interception was conducted using NATO integrated air defense systems operating in coordination with Turkish military infrastructure. While the missile reportedly did not enter Turkish territory, the event raised immediate concerns about the possibility of the regional conflict spilling toward NATO borders. Iran, according to reporting cited by Al Jazeera, denied firing a missile toward Turkey. That denial highlights the level of uncertainty and contested narratives surrounding many developments in this rapidly evolving crisis. For NATO, the situation presents a difficult balance. Officials have indicated that the incident does not currently trigger the alliance's Article 5 collective defense provisions. However, Reuters reports that the alliance has heightened its air defense posture as a precaution. While these developments were unfolding, another significant military movement was announced by France. According to Reuters reporting, French President Emmanuel Macron stated that France would deploy additional naval forces toward the Red Sea and potentially the Strait of Hormuz in order to protect commercial shipping routes. The deployment may include escort warships and support vessels tasked with maritime security operations. Reuters reports that up to 8 warships could be involved in the broader European effort to secure shipping lanes affected by the escalating attacks. The move reflects growing concern among European governments that continued instability in the region could threaten global trade flows and energy security. And as these developments continue to unfold, a separate shift in military posture was reported involving the United States. According to Reuters reporting, the Pentagon has begun redeploying certain missile defense systems from East Asia toward the Middle East. These systems include Patriot missile defense components and possibly other elements of the regional missile defense architecture. South Korean officials, cited in Reuters reporting, indicated that while the redeployment could affect the regional security balance in Asia, Seoul believes it can still maintain deterrence against North Korean threats, even if some U.S. systems are moved. The redeployment underscores the growing concern in Washington that missile threats linked to the Middle East escalation could increase in the coming weeks. These developments are not occurring in isolation. On the Korean Peninsula, North Korea conducted cruise missile launches from a newly unveiled 5,000-ton naval destroyer, according to reporting from the Korea Times and Anadolu Agency. Leader Kim Jong-un reportedly observed the launch and emphasized strengthening the country's nuclear deterrent. According to the reporting, the missile flight times exceeded 1,000 seconds during the test. Analysts say such launches highlight North Korea's efforts to expand its naval strike capabilities, while the United States and South Korea conduct joint military exercises. While this development is geographically distant from the Strait of Hormuz crisis, it adds another layer of complexity to an already tense global security environment. And finally, a warning from U.S. Central Command has added another element of urgency to the situation in the Gulf. According to reporting by the New York Post, citing CENTCOM statements, U.S. officials warned Iranian civilians to avoid ports that may be used by military forces as tensions escalate in the region. The warning came after the series of ship attacks and ongoing strikes targeting Iranian assets. At the same time, energy markets reacted quickly to the maritime disruptions. According to reporting cited in the coverage, crude oil prices briefly surged close to $119 per barrel during the height of the latest escalation. That reaction reflects how sensitive global markets remain to developments in the Strait of Hormuz. And when we look beyond the immediate headlines, the deeper strategic dynamics begin to emerge. What we are witnessing is not just a series of isolated incidents. It is a convergence of military pressure, economic leverage, and geopolitical signaling across multiple regions. According to confirmed reporting, several actors are now repositioning military assets, adjusting defense postures, and preparing for possible further escalation. The critical question now is not simply what has happened. The question is why this crisis is unfolding now, and how the strategic intentions of each actor may shape what happens next. According to the confirmed reporting we discussed earlier, the immediate facts of the situation are relatively clear. Multiple commercial vessels have been struck in or near the Strait of Hormuz. Maritime operators are reassessing transit routes. NATO has intercepted a suspected missile approaching Turkish airspace. European naval forces are preparing deployments toward the region, and the United States is shifting elements of its missile defense architecture toward the Middle East. These developments are occurring simultaneously with a North Korean missile test and heightened warnings from U.S. Central Command about the possibility of further military activity near Iranian endports. To understand why these events are converging now, we need to move carefully from confirmed reporting into strategic analysis. From a purely analytical standpoint, the Strait of Hormuz incidents appear to serve several possible strategic purposes for actors operating in the region. First, maritime pressure on a critical energy choke point creates immediate global attention. When even a small number of ships are damaged or forced to divert routes, energy markets react quickly, as seen when crude prices briefly surged toward $119 per barrel, according to reporting cited earlier. That kind of reaction demonstrates how sensitive global markets remain to disruptions in this narrow corridor. Second, maritime attacks create a signaling mechanism. According to analysts frequently cited in maritime security reporting, operations targeting commercial shipping can serve as a way for regional actors to demonstrate capability without necessarily crossing the threshold into full conventional warfare. Sea drones, projectiles, and asymmetric maritime tactics are particularly suited to this kind of signaling because they are difficult to attribute conclusively and can be deployed in ways that complicate military response decisions. However, it is important to emphasize that attribution for the specific incidents remains under investigation. Reports have suggested possible involvement of Iranian Revolutionary Guard naval units, but officials have not presented definitive public confirmation. That uncertainty is itself part of the strategic environment. From the perspective of the United States and its regional partners, the redeployment of missile defense systems and naval forces appears to reflect a defensive adjustment to the evolving threat environment. According to Reuters reporting, Patriot missile defense components and other systems may be shifting from East Asia toward the Middle East. Such redeployments are not uncommon during periods of heightened tension, but they do have broader strategic implications. When missile defense assets move from one region to another, deterrence calculations can shift. South Korean officials cited in Reuters reporting stated that they believe their country can maintain deterrence against North Korean threats, even if some U.S. systems are redeployed. Nevertheless, analysts often point out that visible adjustments to defense posture can influence the strategic perceptions of multiple actors simultaneously. At the same time, European governments appear to be increasing their involvement in maritime security. According to Reuters, France has announced plans to deploy additional warships toward the Red Sea and potentially the Strait of Hormuz in order to help secure shipping lanes. If implemented at the scale described in reporting, the deployment could involve escort vessels and additional naval assets tasked with protecting commercial shipping. This type of multinational naval presence is designed to reassure shipping companies and deter further attacks. However, it also increases the density of military assets operating within a relatively confined maritime environment. That density can raise the risk of accidental encounters or miscalculations, especially if multiple countries are operating under different command structures. Looking at the hard power realities described in the reporting, several operational factors stand out. The Strait of Hormuz is extremely narrow in navigational terms. At its tightest point, shipping lanes are only a few miles wide. That geography means commercial vessels follow highly predictable transit routes. While this efficiency supports global energy logistics, it also creates vulnerabilities because ships must pass through a confined corridor where monitoring and interception are easier. Naval forces operating in the region therefore rely heavily on surveillance systems, maritime patrol aircraft, and escort operations to protect commercial shipping. According to the sources cited earlier, both U.S. regional forces and allied naval units are already active in the broader Gulf security architecture. At the same time, asymmetric maritime systems such as sea drones or projectile launch platforms introduce new operational challenges. These systems can be launched from relatively small vessels or coastal positions, making them difficult to detect in advance. Their lower cost also allows them to be used in repeated incidents without requiring large conventional fleets. In the air domain, missile defense remains a critical component of regional security. The NATO interception reported by Turkish officials illustrates how integrated defense systems operate across alliance networks. According to Reuters reporting, NATO's integrated missile defense architecture allows allied systems to detect and intercept incoming threats across shared radar and command networks. The fact that the interception occurred before the missile entered Turkish airspace indicates the importance of early detection and coordinated response. Yet even successful interceptions carry strategic consequences. Each event raises questions about intent, escalation thresholds, and the reliability of deterrence. Beyond the immediate military dynamics, the diplomatic environment is becoming increasingly complex. Governments across Europe, the Middle East, and Asia are responding to the developments through both public statements and quiet diplomatic channels. European leaders appear focused on protecting commercial shipping and preventing disruptions to global trade. France's decision to deploy additional naval forces reflects a broader concern among European economies that energy market instability could produce economic shocks. Meanwhile, governments in Asia are closely watching the redeployment of U.S. missile defense assets. Even if the systems moved are limited in number, the perception of shifting priorities can influence strategic calculations in the region. And on the Korean Peninsula, North Korea's missile tests serve as a reminder that multiple security crises can unfold simultaneously. According to reporting from the Korea Times and Anadolu Agency, North Korea's cruise missile launches from its new destroyer highlight efforts to expand naval strike capabilities, while joint U.S.-South Korea military exercises continue. While these developments are not directly connected to the Strait of Hormuz incidents, they contribute to a global environment in which multiple theaters are experiencing heightened tension at the same time. Taken together, the strategic consequences of the current crisis extend beyond the Gulf itself. First, there is the impact on global energy security. Because approximately 20% of the world's oil supply passes through the Strait of Hormuz, even temporary disruptions can affect prices and supply planning. Shipping companies, insurers, and energy traders all monitor the region closely during periods of instability. Second, there is the question of alliance dynamics. NATO's missile interception near Turkish airspace demonstrates how regional conflicts can approach alliance borders. Even if Article 5 has not been triggered, each incident raises questions about how far escalation might spread. Third, there is the broader issue of deterrence credibility. When military assets are repositioned, naval forces deployed, and missile defenses activated across multiple regions, governments are signaling both preparedness and caution. The logic of escalation in situations like this tends to follow a recognizable pattern observed in past crises. Initially, incidents occur at the tactical level, attacks on shipping, missile launches, or limited strikes. These events trigger defensive adjustments such as increased patrols or the deployment of protective systems. If tensions continue to rise, additional actors often enter the theater in order to protect their interests. That stage appears to be emerging now with the potential deployment of European naval forces. The critical challenge is preventing tactical incidents from triggering unintended strategic escalation. Maritime confrontations, missile interceptions, and asymmetric attacks all carry the risk that a single misinterpreted action could provoke a larger response. Given the current dynamics described in confirmed reporting, analysts generally outline 4 broad scenarios that could emerge from this crisis. Best case, shipping disruptions decrease as naval escorts and diplomatic pressures stabilize the Strait of Hormuz. Maritime traffic resumes more normal patterns and energy markets calm as incidents decline. Limited escalation. Attacks on shipping continue intermittently, but remain below the threshold of direct state-to-state naval confrontation. Naval forces increase patrols and insurance costs rise, but global trade continues to function. Prolonged standoff. Multiple naval deployments remain in the region for an extended period. Maritime incidents occur sporadically, creating a long-term security standoff around the Strait of Hormuz that affects global energy prices. Full conflict. Direct clashes between military forces occur following a major maritime incident or missile exchange. Shipping lanes close temporarily and global markets experience severe disruption. For analysts watching the situation closely, several signals over the next 24 to 72 hours will be particularly important. Official statements from governments involved in the maritime incidents. Evidence of additional naval deployments or escort missions in the Gulf. Further attacks on commercial vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz. Diplomatic communications between regional governments and international organizations. Energy market reactions, particularly oil price volatility and shipping insurance changes. For now, the key facts remain the same. Multiple ships have been struck in the Strait of Hormuz. NATO air defenses have intercepted a suspected missile approaching Turkish airspace. France is preparing naval deployments to protect shipping routes. The United States is shifting missile defense assets toward the Middle East, and tensions in multiple regions are unfolding at the same time. Me time. Whether these developments remain contained or evolve into something larger will depend on the decisions made by governments over the coming days. The situation remains fluid. Maritime security, missile defense, and diplomatic coordination are all being tested simultaneously. So the question now is not simply what has already happened. The real question is, what happens next? Do you think the situation will stabilize, or are we entering a more dangerous phase of escalation? Where are you watching ARC News TV from? And in one word, how do you see this unfolding? Containment, escalation, diplomacy. If you want clear, fact-based analysis of global crises as they develop, subscribe to ARC News TV and enable notifications so you don't miss the next briefing. This is ARC News TV. And the next move will define what comes next.